If you've been a clerk all your life, only to become an F-rank adventurer at the age of 30, you probably think there is no way to rank up, right? Wrong. Because if you're like Rick, you'll find yourself in a party of the strongest S-rankers, surviving arguably the worst training for 2 years, and also defeating golems and dragons with the sheer might of your punch. Are you curious to see how Rick turns his miserable life around? Let's find out by jumping right into the story. Down and defeated on the ground, Rick the newbie thinks that he's going to die from this kind of training. His party members, those of elite stature and immense strength, believe that he's done well in the past 2 years, as the only one capable of surpassing such a training program. They think he'll destroy the test grounds for the E-rank exam. Rick, on the other hand, believes that he still has a long way to go to catch up to his monstrous teammates. The story begins in the present when Rick arrives for an adventurer E-rank promotion exam. Arisa is surprised to see him after 2 long years and explains how surprised she was when she first heard that he had quit to become an adventurer. Rick reflects how, even on these test grounds, no one is his age, as adventurers usually come young. Rick shares that a ridiculous F-rank, 32-year-old like him, is probably an unexpected outcome, as people usually become adventurers sometime before they turn 20, and in 2 years, they jump up to the E-rank. Arisa agrees, when a strange man similar to Rick's age comes to harass the receptionist with his abusive strength. Rick tries to fight the two of them off, but this man, who stinks like alcohol, is too drunk to even care. Rick accepts the challenge and welcomes the man's initial attack, but he perceives the punch as something too slow compared to what he's trained against. Bro for real called him a snail for that lazy punch. Rick gently maneuvers against the punch and lightly jabs the man, sending a crushing blow throughout his body and defeating him with 1 strike. Rick surprises himself as he doesn't expect the man to be knocked unconscious after a single punch, even though he doesn't even exert any strength. Arisa is impressed by his strength, while Rick tells her that his opponent is just too weak, as even his punches are slow. He receives his first admission ticket for the exam with his number and name on it. Rick doesn't feel too good about this and thinks that the man that he just defeated is an F-rank newbie of their age, just like he was. Lynette comes to ask if he's done registering. Rick admires her looks and is busy appreciating her body when Lynette insists that he come to the exam site. Rick follows her and sees the youthful candidates, disregarding his own abilities because he thinks they outshine him. Lynette tells him that it's exactly the opposite, as Rick only became an adventurer 2 years ago, and he's had an amazing amount of unnatural development since then. She thinks that the other examinees will be the ones who will lose their confidence upon seeing his abilities. Rick recalls how his teachers also said the same thing, but he still believes otherwise. He has been training in seclusion deep in the mountains for the past 2 years, as he was once a clerk of another guild. Which also means Rick doesn't know the strength of an average adventurer class. He thinks that the different power levels representing each rank might be the same. Lynette goes over the various ranks for him, with the F rank indicating that the adventurer is in the learning phase, meaning fighting even the low-level monsters can be dangerous for them. Rank E is being formally recognized as a professional, but a low-level monster will wipe the floor with you still. The D rank is considered special, as almost all adventurers skip this and move directly to the C rank. The C rank is where one can easily defeat low-rank monsters, but struggle against the higher-ranked beasts. Rank B is where they can solely defeat a high-ranking monster with ease, while the A ranks can defeat a horde of high-ranking beasts by themselves. Rick thinks that he should be strong enough for E rank, but he can't just imagine that by theorizing. Lynette advises him to have faith in himself as he is a member of the party that is boasted as the strongest faction on the continent, the party known as the Orichalcum Fist. Rick thinks that because he's one of their allies, he aspires to become at the least of E-rank status to get a few adventurers to recognize him. Arisa brings over security to explain the situation regarding the drunk adventurer just now. She tells them that her acquaintance saved her, except when the man inspects the armor of the defeated adventurer. He finds an incredible dent carved in the shape of Rick's incredible fist. The guard states that this guy is literally the former A ranker known as the Knight of Tyranny, and he's been defeated with a single punch. Arisa explains that her acquaintance only worked as a clerk 2 years ago, and she doesn't believe he possesses any kind of special magic or martial arts. The guard is left stupefied to wonder what occurred in the past 2 years that a middle-aged man destroyed an A ranker with 1 blow. Whoa, our boy Rick is strong. Rick has his body examination finished and heads over for attack power measurement, followed by a written exam and defense power measurement. Rick arrives at the examination arena where the examiner explains that the object before them is a slime bag which was made by processing slime parts. The bag is capable of absorbing impacts, which means they can fully attack it for measurement. The strength of the attack will be measured by the impact left on the bag. Rick recalls how he used this bag all of the time during his training, which means he's quite knowledgeable about it. He recalls his training, which had the objective of destroying the slime bag with his fists. Even though Rick didn't believe that the bag could even be destroyed, his S-rank party member easily crushed it with a single blow, stating that his fists were capable of annihilating 200 of the same bags at once. Rick's training then consisted of training against the bag, landing 50,000 hits per day. Damn, was this man training to beat Goku or what? Rick remembers how tough it was, and he somehow managed to learn the effectiveness of his punches during the training session. He also gauges how the slime bag comes in different variants, with the green one being the weakest, which is the same one before them. Frito Duramuto is called forth to be the first one to demonstrate his power. He arrogantly steps inside, thinking that his unrated C-rank magic is enough to fend off anything. The boy is only 11 years old and is considered a prodigy, while Rick wonders if he's some kind of famous person and doesn't want to get jealous of his skills. He thinks that this is the optimal situation for him to gauge how much power he should use. Frito casts a flame magic of the third order, which is what Rick is impressed by, as it's not an easy thing to accomplish at even C rank. He remembers his training again when he nearly felt like dying. Rick thinks that he can easily defend against light magic attacks, but has trouble dealing with extreme magic. He wonders if the boy prodigy in front of him is capable of utilizing unrestrained magic like the girl in his party. Even though Rick had super high expectations, Frito only released a puny fire attack, something so small compared to the magical girl in his party who could fire an attack 100 times this size. Hahaha, all that build up for nothing. Rick has trouble accepting this level of magic and wonders if this small fire attack has the compressed energy of a gigantic fireball. He still believes that it's a terrifying magic ability until the small fireball clashes against the slime bag, releasing only a slight impact. People think highly of the prodigy's abilities, including Frito himself, and they lauded him as a genius of unprecedented magic. Rick, on the other hand, has seen other examinees hit the bag only to end up not even moving it by a bit. Finally, he gets called to the front for his power analysis. Rick doesn't know what he should do, and even though he was told to hold back, he really can't see himself holding back too much at this level. The people all around him voice how old he is and think that he's trash. Rick doesn't care and steps to the front, where the conductor gives an overview of how Rick became an adventurer at age 30. The conductor advises him to search for another job as he has no hope that Rick will pass this exam. Old man is about to find out the hard way. Rick stares into his eyes, which seem to be full of pity. Rick reflects how his amount of magic is low, and he got a late start, which is only fair for people to judge him in such a way. However, the training he went through and the incredible amount of effort he displayed are enough to explain that it doesn't matter what age one starts their training to become an adventurer. Rick believes that it is the right answer as he comes face to face with the slime bag. He reassures himself and intends to hold back properly, hoping for the examiner to watch his move. Rick puts some of his strength inside the punch and quickly annihilates the slime bag, sending it crashing through the wall and shocking all of his fellow examinees. The people realize how the bag was incapable of absorbing his attack just now, while Rick thinks that because of the past 2 years, he's learned a lot of things, and the only thing he wasn't taught of all of them was how to hold back his strength. Damn, my man said he's him. Rick crushed the written exam soon after, thanks to his former profession as a clerk for 14 years. Frito is constantly jealous of his development and analyzes that Rick is specialized in physical attacks, whereas he himself has a good defense. Frito thinks that he will annihilate Rick in the defense power measurement, showing the depths of his capabilities. However, Rick embarrassed him completely as he took 4th order magic, and stood unfazed with not even a sweat. The examiner tried to raise the level to 5th order spells, and suggested Rick use something adequate for defense. Rick states that he won't be hurt, and though it may be embarrassing to admit, he can only use 1st order spells for attack and defense magic. His confession surprises his examiner, who doesn't know how he can still manage to manipulate magic with such precision. He finally prepares a 5th order spell, releasing a shock cyclone of potent strength aimed straight ahead. Frito is left shattered once he sees how Rick basically survived the attack, an attack that ripped apart the ground itself before reaching him. Sylvester, as an A rank knight, makes a surprise entrance and comes to note Rick's existence, realizing how an F rank adventurer destroyed the green slime bag, walls, and barriers and also defended against a 5th order spell with a first one with relative ease. He wonders if this is some kind of sick joke, as he's unable to comprehend it. The lady examiner tells him that the bag wasn't actually made of the lowest grade green slimes, rather, it was a composite formed from the blue and yellow slimes, which is even more shocking considering Rick's incredible power to obliterate it in full. Even the spell used by the mage was a fully chanted 5th order spell, while Rick didn't even use an incantation to defend himself. Bro is having a panic attack just hearing his results. The A ranker Sylvester continues to grow stunned by this man's abilities, and thinks that both feats are practically impossible, even for someone of his caliber. Then comes a 3rd order of surprise, when he finds that this man is 32 years old and an F ranker at his current age. When he looks over his work history records to find his previous job as a receptionist, Sylvester checks his eyes as he thinks that reception might be code for slaying a dragon. Ahaha, he's having a hard time coping with reality. Over to Rick. Lynette informs him that he doesn't need to worry about not holding back in these exams, as that rule only applies in the mock battle. Frito surprisingly comes to complain as he's the known prodigy. Rick takes him for a lost child and makes him cry, as Frito accuses him of deploying dirty tricks during the exams. Frito's sister hops over to accuse Rick of harassing her brother. Angelica is the firstborn daughter of the Duramato household, and she supports her brother unanimously. Frito complains that this 40-year-old bullied him, while Rick gets triggered because he's only 30. Angelica bothers him and thinks that he might be evil, going as far as to challenge Rick to an official duel. Rick picks up her glove, not knowing that he's actually accepted the duel as tradition. Angelica tells him that they'll be fighting in a Philheim Kingdom format for a duel, with both parties giving the other conditions. Angelica's condition is that the loser has to serve as the other's servant until death, as she lauds herself as the 2nd-class knight, and continues to call him a 40-year-old. Damn, the only thing she can do to him is call him old. The scene switches to the arena, where Angelica is facing off against Rick. She wants to discipline this man, while he's just bothered by being here. Rick asks Lynette if a 2nd-class knight is strong in the kingdom's order. Lynette explains that the 2nd class are only inferior to special and 1st-class knights. Lynette tells him that Angelica should be around a B rank adventurer's level, which Rick finds to be pretty strong. Lynette advises Rick to hold back because she knows the height of his power. Rick suffers from overthinking and wonders if he's even going to return home from this battle. Lynette tells him to remember his training from the past 2 years. Rick tries doing that and only remembers relentless pain and agony, as if his spirit has crumbled. However, it lets him regain composure as Rick realizes that he, too, is strong in his own way. No, bro has survived level 999 training and is worried about this scrub. Rick comes to face Angelica, who draws her sword and waits to finish him off. She tells him that she will be holding back to ensure Rick doesn't die. Angelica prepares her stance as a swordsman specializing in strengthening magic. Angelica thinks that Rick won't be able to keep up with her speed as she takes off in an effort to flash step him. Rick is surprised when she appears right behind him to land a cutting blow. Frito thinks that his sister will knock the living daylights out of the 40-year-old peasant, and tells Rick that Angelica is famously known as the Flash of Light. Angelica laughs, thinking that Rick is so stunned by her speed that he can't even speak. She tells him that she won't be missing the next time on purpose. Angelica uses her blink step move once more, something that Rick perceives as an incredibly slow attack. In fact, he feels that the attack is so slow that it doesn't even compare to his running speed. Rick gets caught up in thought and dodges the attack, shocking Angelica with his precise movements. She has trouble believing that something of this level is even possible, unless she's facing a superior knight class. Angelica gets annoyed and uses blink step a 3rd time, only to find herself stubbing against a rock. Rick thinks that she's slow for even a 2nd-class knight, and wonders if this girl got into the Kingdom Order through her family connections. Rick is shocked when he sees Angelica stupidly rolling against her, thanks to her previous fall. She's unintentionally rotated herself to launch a disordered series of attacks. Rick has low confidence in himself as he dodges the slashing attacks and, to his surprise, finds himself to be strong. Rick believes that he's just a beginner even now, but Angelica is amazing, including her cunning tactics. Angelica tries to keep up a confident stature, even though she fails miserably by tripping over a stupid rock. Angelica confesses that the last time her movement was exploited to such a degree was when she faced a special class knight, and so if Rick can track her movements, she just needs to go even faster. Angelica aims to use an even faster version of Blink Step, while Rick notes that she's 3 times faster than her usual ability, except it's still too slow for him to perceive the attack. Rick wonders if this is a trap of some kind, and doesn't want to attack carelessly as there might be a lethal counter. He's lost in his thoughts right before the blade reaches his face. Rick decides to step aside, evading Angelica's attack a 4th time and surprising her once again. She knows that she can only use Blink Step Rin 2 more times in battle and doesn't know what to do anymore to secure victory. Angelica believes that if Rick can avoid the attack 1 time, then she should just strike Rick with her fastest speed multiple times for offense. Angelica uses Blink Step Rin again, which Rick evades, and then she exhausts all of her willpower just for a sliver of a chance to strike him down. Rick doesn't want to let his guard down and wonders if this attack is also a fake. Angelica trips over a rock a 2nd time, which makes Rick believe that her downward strike is all planned. Rick thinks that his approach has been read, not knowing that she didn't plan for the incoming attack. To defend, he puts a little power in his punch and obliterates the ground to fend her off. Angelica is left completely overwhelmed as she wonders about this man's identity. Rick claims that he's just someone who turned as an adventurer in 2 years and has worked in reception his whole life. Angelica can't come to terms with this jaw-dropping revelation, as she refuses to believe his words. She really said, "Stop the cap, hahaha." Rick claims that he will be taking this chance as an opportunity to fight against a skilled opponent and go all out, except Angelica chickens out, knowing that she might just be killed by accident. The moment Rick fires up is the exact moment she surrenders and throws in the towel. Damn, bro broke her spirit without dishing out a punch. Rick is all the more shocked, not knowing that he's left a giant crater just behind him. Angelica embarrassingly accepts her defeat and runs off to Frito. Rick reminds her about the pact, stopping her dead in her tracks. Rick states that he didn't mention any condition of his own and hopes that she would stick to the bet that she made. Angelica uses her Blink Step and paces away at her fastest speed, leaving Rick surprised. Back at the examination hall, Rick wonders if he's made it through the first exams. Lynette tells him that if he fails, then they'll up their training by 3 times the amount, something that Rick believes would actually kill him. A man calls out to the Dark Elf and introduces himself as Laster Duramuto, as he's the Duke's firstborn son. He asks for Lynette's name and becomes enraptured by her beauty. Laster deploys the corniest pickup line of the century, only to face the elf's immediate disgust. Rick chimes into cover for Lynette, stating that she is his girlfriend. He knows that Lynette hates lies, but he wants to de-escalate the situation his own way. Laster is surprised that Lynette went for a middle-aged guy. Rick shows his exam admission ticket, and Laster is surprised that this guy is an examinee for the promotion exam. He laughs, taking Rick for a joke as if he's never looked in the mirror his entire life. Rick tells him that Laster, too, came to take the exam, but Laster corrects him that he's an A ranker who became an E rank when he was 14. He is actually an examiner here for the 2nd exam's mock battles. Laster advises Lynette to lose the middle-aged Rick and come to lunch with him instead. However, Lynette goes on with Rick's act and treats him as her boyfriend, stating that she can't come to lunch because of their relationship. Laster faces an uglier rejection than his hair and gets his ego crushed. He declares that he will absolutely wipe the floor with Rick in the 2nd exam, should they cross paths in order to prove his point. Laster leaves while Rick reflects on how he's involved himself in a troublesome situation again, as he hopes this guy isn't too strong. Ah yes, the elephant is worried over an ant, I love it. The numbers of those who passed the first exam are finally put on display. Rick finds his exam number and celebrates like a little boy. Lynette congratulates him and also thanks Rick for covering for her. Lynette states that she will be reporting his exam results to the Orichalcum Fist Party. Meanwhile, Laster, on his end, is seething over his interaction with Rick and Lynette. He finds the people below his rank truly despicable, displaying his snob behavior at the finest. Laster then finds his 2 fiddling siblings just crying to request his aid after getting themselves rocked by Rick's power. Laster wonders what kind of douchebag would hurt some kids and asks Frito for Rick's exam number. This snob mofo is scheming something. The scene switches back to Rick and Lynette. Rick thinks that he doesn't know if he can hold back against a human opponent in their 2nd mock battle. He doesn't even know about his examiner, and his crippling anxiety grows to bother him. An examiner comes to greet Rick in respect and introduces himself as Lynx Lalato. Lynx tells Rick that he's going to be the examiner in charge of their 2nd exam, which fills Rick with confidence as he celebrates the occasion. Lynx states that after looking through his profile, He is left speechless by Rick's working history as a receptionist to an adventurer. Rick thinks that he's about to get ridiculed again like usual, but Lynx confesses his absolute admiration for the man, stating that he, too, was encouraged by this amazing feat. Rick receives an unusual reaction for the first time, while Lynx shares that he became an adventurer at the age of 24, and thought he entered late when he discovered that people joined later even than he did. Rick confirms and mentions his dream. Lynx aspires to become an A ranker despite his age, even though he's only just made it to B rank despite 20 years of effort. Rick reflects, wondering if Lynx is the same as him, as he's passionate even at his age. Rick shakes his hand in admiration as they decide to meet up after the exam. However, when Lynx is making his way back, he just so happens to stumble into Laster, who calls him over for a talk. Oh no, he's about to whoop him in battle. Rick enters the second examination arena and finds his name to be under Lynx Lolato's section. He's glad that he doesn't get to face Laster and thinks that isn't rotten. However, a strange announcement suddenly gets made as Lynx has apparently been put out of commission and will be unable to take charge of his side of the exam. Called it, he got whooped. Rick wonders what happened, as Lynx was completely fine a while ago. Rick spurts out his drink when the announcement states that Laster will continue to be in charge of both groups. The examinees talk of his wrath, and fret in fear and disappointment. Rick asks them if he's famous, and they confirm his suspicions that he's a genius adventurer who became an A ranker at the age of 17. Laster is lauded as the man with 1,000 skills and the most powerful A ranking mage. He also has one other notorious name called the F-rank Crusher. Bro thinks crushing scrubs makes him an elite. Rick's life flashes before his eyes as he thinks that he's about to get hard crushed by this man. Rick also sees one of the examinees in critical condition after facing Laster. Rick loses his mind, wondering what he's going to do now. Laster by himself completely annihilates the examinees with his myriad of magic abilities. He terrorizes them in strength and states that they're all third-rate in the end. Laster is anticipating the arrival of Rick, hoping to give him a taste of dread he's never seen before. That's when the elite guards offer to take care of the job instead. But Laster believes that he should be the one to dispose of such trash. The elite guard shares that losing to the strongest A ranker wouldn't be very humiliating. Laster thinks that he's right and thinks that he should go above and beyond, shattering Rick's pride and determination. He wants to first make Rick struggle against time, and tell the elite guards to do their own thing. Rick is having a meltdown, crashing his confidence lower than any crypto stock as he thinks that he's about to get washed against the strongest A rank mage. Lynette tells him to calm down and to believe in his strength, but Rick is a simple guy who wants to go home. He comes across a fortune teller who notes that this man is hopelessly stressed. The fortune teller wants to alleviate his burdens by foretelling his fate. Rick finds it a great idea and sits in the chair for inspection. However, he's instantly teleported to a different location thanks to the magic circle underneath. The fortune teller is revealed to be Frito, who's shocked that this idiot fell for it. However, Frito's life flashes before his eyes when Lynette shows her scariest side, demanding to know Rick's location. She instills a devilish fear in Frito, as he claims that he's within a 100-meter radius and wasn't sent far away. Man, I wouldn't recommend getting on her bad side. Rick finds himself at the square in front of the arena. He wonders if he was teleported by the fortune teller and doesn't know why. Rick wants to head back immediately when he finds a musclehead, along with many elite guards who are here to put him out of commission. The elite guards of the Duramato household intend to assassinate him at once, while Rick believes that this only means the fortune teller is Frito. Rick wonders if their goal is to prevent him from attending his exam in 30 minutes. The elite guards state that even though he possesses powers equal to a B rank, the 20 people assembled here can easily contend with a B ranker, and among them, some of the guards can also contend with A rankers. They really turned this into a 1v20 jump Kaizen with those numbers. Rick notes the reinforced weapon and thinks that he's doomed for life. Rick wonders how he's going to defeat a group of such professionals, despite his struggle against Angelica. The elite guards want to begin their assault when Rick turns over to shockingly discover that the S-rank members of the Orichalcum Fist have arrived. We are then introduced to the special S-rank category, a rank that is reserved for the monsters that possess a fighting ability above and beyond natural laws and common sense, and they cannot even be grouped against the other adventurers. 3 such forces, comprising an orc, a dwarf hybrid, and a vampire, are standing before them. The wise orc wonders what Rick is doing, and he tries his best to excuse his way out by saying that he's training with his friends. Obviously, the elite guards aren't as kind to accept the excuse, as the meathead begins to prepare his attack. The man uses his powerful blade, swinging it with full strength only to find it shattered against the orc. All he did was stand. What a Chad. The wise orc offers him a piece of advice, stating that his weapon won't be the best against a durable opponent. The meathead tries to take the battle with his punches, only to find his fist stopped in a swift motion. The orc takes a step further and completely shatters his fingers, only to heal his hand right after with his divine healing magic. The wise orc offers advice to this musclehead, leaving the elite guards completely surprised by his ability to speak and cast magic. It is explained that he is an existence unlike any other, a being capable of qualifications beyond adventurers, and a priest who possesses superhuman strength, intelligence, and incredible support magic abilities. This existence is called the Wise Orc, known as Blowstone Ashork. The leader of the elite guards also explains that this party comprises only the S-rank adventurers deemed the strongest on the continent, reigning power at the level of legends and ancient fairy tales. Yep, that's the most broken squad in the entire world. Ashork wonders who's next, and Rick urges the elite guards to run to safety as it is for the best. Rick's ally, the dwarf hybrid, picks apart Rick's previous excuse and states that these guys are actually picking a fight with him instead of training. The dwarf reveals his newest developed creation, a gun run by a magic stone that can let loose explosion magic. He also demonstrates the point against the elite guards. This man is a genius in his own right, as he's the mix of a dwarf and an elf, bearing the same appearance for 50 years. He's someone who has developed technology unlike any other and is deemed the world's strongest weapons craftsman. Mizit Eldorf, one of the elite guards, ends up taking the little vampire hostage, stating that he's going to kill her if they don't surrender. The man thinks that he's got the upper hand, when Rick believes that he's acting like a stupid fool who doesn't know what's coming. The vampire girl asks Rick what this guy is doing, and Rick tries to explain that he's just playing around. She gets fed up thinking that they're a bunch of bullies and completely decimates the playing field with her unrestrained magic. She's a pure vampire, and even at the mere age of 10, she is considered the strongest attack magic, termed the prodigy of devastation, Alicet Drackle. Witnessing the sheer display of their magnificent powers, the leader of the elite guards uncharacteristically states that he's gonna choose to retire now. Rick stands among his comrades and states that he'll do his best on the exam. Over to Lynette's side, she has Frito on hold until Rick returns. Frito thinks that Rick won't be returning at all, as he's gone face to face with the elite guards who probably killed him by now. Frito's eyes pop right out of his socket as he sees Rick arriving right into the room without any injuries on his body. Rick apologizes, but Frito thinks that he used some kind of dirty trick again. Lynette casually slams his head above the ceiling and welcomes Rick, who's shocked by the crumbled wall right next to him. He remembers Lynette's might as an S-ranker. Rick and Lynette wait until his turn arrives, while he finds himself demotivated to fight against Laster. Even though more and more examinees come out of the exam injured, Rick is surprisingly calm despite his previous behavior. Rick states that he wants to strengthen his resolve, except he's visibly trembling and breaks loose, thinking that the strongest A-ranking mage is going to annihilate him in this battle. Lynette explains that this level of an opponent is nothing to fear, and she insists for him to have some faith in himself. Rick is still bothered by his late start, and remembers how everyone told him that it was impossible for him to become an adventurer. Lynette claims that it also works the opposite way, as if his confidence can be shaken by another's words. Then he can also strengthen his confidence through someone's words. She submits her full belief in Rick's abilities and wants him to win the exam, going as far as to say that she's always believed in him since day one. Lynette asks if Rick also believes in her integrity. Rick is grateful for her support and feels his self-confidence brewing up. That's when a bloodied Lynx arrives, to inform him that Laster is the one responsible for his condition. Rick realizes that all of this happened because Laster wanted to fight him. Lynx shares that his dream is to build a school in his hometown for children who aspire to become adventurers, except Laster only called him garbage and gave him a brutal beating, reminding Lynx that someone like him could never achieve rank A, as that's his limit as an adventurer. He left Lynx with cold words to remember, something that Lynx finds to be frustrating as he couldn't form a reply. He begs Rick to withdraw from the exam to avoid a crushing defeat, except Rick displays an unprecedented show of confidence, stating that he's going to defeat Laster once and for all. Lynette bumps into Erisa, who happens to be Rick's former coworker at the reception. They share a conversation as Lynette introduces herself, while Erisa finds herself surprised by Rick's rise as an adventurer. She wants to share a seat, but Lynette mentions that she's on her way to share a seat with her colleagues. Blowstone and the others call out for her in anticipation, wondering about Eris's identity. Erisa introduces herself while Mizet offers her a seat. Glowstone asks about Rick's condition, to which Lynette explains that he'll be passing the second exam with flying colors. Erisa realizes that every member here happens to be one of Rick's teachers. Glowstone explains that an adventurer's strength is related to the great foundations of physical strength, body and magic control, and finally, magic quantity. In the case of Rick, his mana quantity is inferior to others, so he trained the other three foundations to an extreme level. Glowstone made sure to build Rick's physical strength to an insurmountable level, to the point where he could subjugate just about any monster with his hands. Dude said his hands are rated E for everyone. Nizet, on his end, helped him with magic control, while Alicet played around with Rick, helping him endure the worst of her offense to strengthen his defense magic. Lynette helped him with body control, something Erisa was shocked by as she thought Lynette was just an ordinary person. Rick is someone who took the brunt of their training, and happens to be in the same stream of S-rankers just like them. Not only that, but if he uses the inherent skill that they've banned, Rick possesses the potential to overcome even their likes. Lynette explains that Rick doesn't seem to realize his own potential at all. They all agree that Rick's humility has always been his strong point, even before training. So true, bro is the humblest character in manga. Mizet analyzes that Rick still believes he's just an ordinary F-ranker because of his humble personality, and wonders if he will be okay against Laster in this battle. Laster and Rick come face to face with each other. He still thinks that Rick somehow escaped the guards and ran away to the arena, which won't help him, because he's going to ensure his demise. Rick can sense the depths of Laster's magical powers just by looking at him, and asked him why he even became an adventurer. Laster is caught off guard by the question, and states that he became one because he had talent, and has since grown tired of the job. Rick finds meaning in his answer, and states that he doesn't want to lose in this battle. Laster thinks that he's a nutcase, who doesn't understand his situation, and wonders if they should initiate the battle. He is surprised when Rick remains prepared yet silent, not letting his anger overcome his strength. He recalls Lynette's advice, as she told him to stay calm for an entire minute after the beginning of the round. Rick is anxious but follows her advice, while Laster musters an incredible fireball attack headed right for his opponent. Rick does nothing and merely watches as the attack leaves an explosion in its wake. Erisa wonders if Rick is alright, and when the smoke clears, he's shown to be a little burnt yet still alive, thanks to his sturdy defense. Laster then uses 4th order magic to bring a barrage of hurricane cutters, something that Rick endures and also survives. Laster takes a step ahead and hits him with calamitous magical attacks one after another, reminding Rick that he should get harassed by elites of his caliber. Erisa voices her concern for Rick as his party doesn't seem to be saying anything at all, because they know Rick is about to stand on business, hahaha. What emerges from the aftermath of such heavy magic attacks surprises Laster, as Rick is standing with his persistence. Laster deploys Angelica's blink step Rin ability to outclass him in speed, except Rick adequately counters his punch, sending Laster on the back. Rick finally realizes what Lynette meant, as he knows he was getting anxious for no reason. Rick reflects that an opponent of this rank is nothing against him, and he would never lose. Laster receives the support of his siblings, who are waiting for their older brother to crush the middle-aged adventurer. Laster casts a 3rd order magic attack, and strengthens it with a heavy chant, throwing it against Rick. Rick, on the other hand, blocks the might of the magic and shocks all 3 of the siblings. He states that such sloppy magic is not enough to get the better of him. When Laster deploys another use of his blink step Rin ability, Rick is the one who charges right against him to deliver a pummeling punch, which Laster only manages to survive because of his strengthening spell. Laster realizes that this guy actually has a lot more power than any ranker, and recognizes his abilities. Laster explains that he's performed more tests than he intended and is a bit tired. He deems him below 3rd rate and jots down Rick's situation as a means of luck. Rick states that he used mere body control instead of practical magic, which was even higher precision than Laster's strengthening magic. His opponent counters that it's impossible for someone to get this strong in the span of 2 years, as he asks what Rick even did. Rick recalls the arduous, the most horrifying training he went through, as he wasn't allowed to leave a cave before defeating the dragon, and also swam in a monster's trap liquid until he gave away to suffocation. Rick faced many monsters while running 100 kilometers with an added weight of 1 ton. Glowstone explains that he basically nearly died before he brought him back with his healing magic each time. Laster thinks that he's lying and still boasts an attitude. Rick reminds him of Lynx and says that he has a dream of his own, which is to defeat the strongest monster in this world, known as the Kaiser Arusapiedo. Laster begins to laugh at his explanation, stating that it's from a mere fairy tale that the young kids dream about. Rick tells him that it's fine for him to believe it is a silly story, as it's not even related to him. Laster doesn't want to tolerate more of Rick's nonsense and wants to finish the battle, casting the 7th Order magic to bind Rick with a set of vines. Rick is surprised that his opponent is capable of casting a chantless 7th Order magic. Laster then continues to actually use an incantation, while Rick wonders what's coming. Laster declares that this is the power of the strongest A ranker as he casts 8th Order magic to summon a gigantic golem monster. Rick breaks free with his basic fundamental magic and aims to punch down what's in front of him. Laster ridicules him in his state of desperation, while Rick tells him that in only the past 2 years, he has fired his basic magic off 100 million times. His words are taken as a bluff by Angelica and Frito, while Arisa wonders if it's even possible by human limits. Glowstone confirms that if one uses special space-time magic, it is indeed possible, and Rick did, in fact, pull off such a feat. My guy is really training to beat a Dragon Ball character, and that's insane. Laster thinks that Rick is lying and wants to decimate his dreams, just like he crushed Lynx. He uses the 8th Order magic and directs a God Impact strike. Rick manages to free himself from the vines and counters with a fist of his own. The two fists collide with Rick's monstrous force, shattering the golem's arm and sending Laster crashing into his siblings. Rick remains on the battlefield, stating that his dreams are surprisingly still unscratched, and grills the snob elite. Rick happens to defeat Laster, and is respected by the people as the one who crushed him. They all appreciate his strength despite his F-rank status and age. Rick finds himself surprised by people talking about him. The members of the Orichalcum Fist Party congratulate him for a spectacular fight. Rick finally comes to terms with his abilities and thinks that he's strong, and he has misunderstood his strength this whole time. He knows that after his death-defying training of the past 2 years, there's no doubt that he's achieved such strength. Laster emerges still as snobbish as ever and is about to leave when Rick poses him a question. He asks the elite genius how he could even lose against a slow starter of Rick's caliber. Laster waits to hear his explanation, while Rick comments on how he did everything with the skills that he had. He advises Laster to train only one skill until he caps out on its level, and wishes Laster the best of luck. Laster states that he will be the examiner facing him in the next promotion exam, and will definitely win against the third rate. Damn, dude is a professional hater, for real. Glowstone tells Rick that they're hanging up the numbers again, and a more composed Rick no longer feels nervous, casually anticipating the number declaring his pass. He remembers his childhood, only 22 years ago, when Rick read the fabled story of the legends of the hero Yamato. It read that if he defeated the ultimate demon, Kaiser Arusapaido, one would obtain a treasure to grant all wishes. However, even the hero Yamato was unable to defeat such a monster, and requested the ambitious adventurers to someday obtain the treasures and have their wishes granted. Youthful and impressionable, Rick vowed to defeat the strongest monster in order to surpass Yamato and obtain the Akashic records. His mother added that adventuring is a dangerous job with the risk of death. She hoped for him to pick a safer route, and his father also agreed with her. In his class, the teacher explained that the probability of discovering a personal skill factor is low, but if it manifests, then the students could freely attend knight or mage schools as scholarships. In Rick's case, a skill factor was actually discovered, except no one knew of its power. It was not a skill that came out with training, which is why they thought he should continue with regular school. Rick was very happy that day as he, too, possessed a personal skill like the hero Yamato. He hoped for the skill to manifest, so that he could make his parents proud as he desired to become an adventurer. However, only a day later, he couldn't manifest the skill. 1 year passed, Rick still couldn't manifest the skill, and even after 5 years, his skill was dormant. Rick knew that one should aim to be an adventurer while young, except he was offered the job of a receptionist instead, and chose to take the safer route. 14 years later, he was just a regular receptionist with his friend Zaid, who obtained a B-rank status. Zaid happily shared that he could now earn freely by being an adventurer, and he wished to treat Rick in kind. Rick was caught with his head against the wall, as he was sitting in a lame job even after 14 years of his skill unmanifested. One day, he was caught in the wake of a monster. The giant troll was something only a B-ranking adventurer could handle. That was the first time he saw Lynette standing in front of the monster, and he thought that she was a naive girl who didn't know any better. He did his best to protect her as an ordinary human despite the dangers he was faced with. Lynette advised him to step aside as she slashed the troll into a billion pieces. Lynette introduced herself for the first time as an adventurer. She really said, "Call an ambulance, but not for me." Lynette stands victorious in the battle, while Rick is just caught up in the fact that she is the one who saved him in the end. Rick asks Lynette if she's around B rank, to which she declines. Rick is impressed that she's an A ranker and states how he's never seen an adventurer fight. However, Lynette shows her card declaring herself an S rank, which shocks Rick to the core as he realizes that even her guild registration card is different. He shares his dream with Lynette to defeat the strongest monster, and wonders if he can become an adventurer at the age of 30. Lynette added how he tried to save her, displaying a lot of courage, which is one important factor in becoming an adventurer. She also reminds him about mana quantity, and how it's difficult to manifest after age 20. Lynette frankly tells him that it would be likely impossible to become an adventurer at his age, which is a hard pill for Rick to swallow as he comes to terms with reality, thinking that at least he heard it from the finest. He invites Lynette out for dinner, and to his surprise, she actually accepts, stating that she's free tomorrow. At least he's got game, hahaha. The following day, Rick is actually in a swell mood, surprising Arisa and Zaid with his optimism. He happily jogs to meet the cute girl, except he once again hears the alert of a monster invasion. Rick is told that there is a giant herd of them headed their way, as he charges in a hurry to check on Lynette, who's taking care of the monsters in front of her. Rick wonders what's even happening while Lynette urges him to run away. However, she falls under a spell of some magic and is left defenseless, as a monster raises its blade to crush her. That's when Zaid arrives to save them, as a B ranker with more heroes accompanying them. With their collaborative efforts, they charge at the monsters ahead, while Rick becomes jealous in a display of their strength, as he's always wanted to become an adventurer himself. Lynette urges Rick to listen and asks him to tell everyone to run away, as this is a dangerous invasion. She states that there is actually a dragon nearby, which is affecting her as her body is weak against a dragon's magic. Zaid struggles against the monsters, while Rick tells everyone to run away as fast as they can. The world gazes at the enormous dragon that descends to wreak its havoc. The dragon roars to face the party members, and to everyone's surprise, Rick is the one standing fearless in front of the mighty winged beast. Zaid doesn't know if Rick's lost his mind, and reminds Rick that he's just a receptionist. Rick turns to tell them that he wants to die fighting as an adventurer. He stands before the might of a god of death and destruction. Rick knows that there is no way he can fight this beast, and knows that he should run away. However, the dream of becoming an adventurer sings freely in his head, as his blood aches for the thirst of battle. This is the first time Rick realizes that he has always wanted such a life. Zaid advises his fellow adventurers to help Rick, while Lynette is left speechless, wondering what he's trying to pull. The dragon charges an electrifying beam and absolutely annihilates the field upon discharge. Zaid and his party members are all rendered defeated, while Lynette regrets being incapable of fighting. The dragon is about to charge yet another beam to finish them off, except Rick is still standing in his bloodied state, as he walks to confront the mighty beast. Rick vows to fulfill his dreams, which is the first time he has acquired his special skill, which is the Reckless Soul. The dragon crushes Rick's body into the ground, and to everyone's shock, he's able to counter the blow, exuding an incredible pool of mana out of his body to the point it's visible to the naked eye. Our boy received his power up at last. Finally, he remembers that this is the inherent skill that has been dormant for nearly 2 decades. He wants to test his skill against the beast before him, as it charges an attack. The dragon sends a column of destruction against Rick, who fends off the beam with his fist and sends it back, eradicating the upper body of the beast. Rick is still left standing before he collapses on the ground. After that, he's brought to recover while Lynette is assisting him. She tells Rick that he broke all of the magic circuits in his body, which is no different than being dead. Rick wonders how long he slept, and Lynette confirms that it's been a week. She introduces the party she's affiliated with, and invites him to join the party because of his relentless determination. Lynette guarantees that Rick can indeed become an adventurer, and because their objective is to defeat Arisa, he can fulfill his dreams at the same time. This is the first time someone has ever cared about his dreams, which reduces him to a state of whining, as he realizes his life has come to fruition. That is what the number 22 represents to him, as jumping back to the present, he's become an adventurer at last. Rick reminds his youthful self that he's accomplished half of his dreams, and thanks himself for becoming an adventurer in the end. The following day, Rick wonders if Lynx wants to share a drink with him as a celebration. Lynx inquires the secret to his strength, while Lynx suggests that they should go to his party's meeting place. Rick doesn't have a pleasant reaction to that, as he knows how intimidating his party can be. A few days pass by and Lynx arrives with his highest level equipment, finally coming in front of a castle which he initially confuses to be a demonic one. Rick welcomes Lynx and apologizes for startling him. Lynx mentions how there aren't any monsters in the area, which surprised him as he's brought such equipment. Rick explains that he'll get it soon enough as he introduces Lynx to his party members, comprising Lynette and Alicet, who end up playfully shocking him with her magic. Luckily, Rick fends off the attack before it connects and reminds Alicet not to play with magic in the castle. Lynette also reminds Alicet that she will take away her meal budget if she continues to mess around. Alicet is reduced to a puddle as she apologizes to Lynette, begging for her food not to be taken away. Lynx wants to look around the castle, and Rick allows him to so long as he has his armor equipped. Lynx comes to find a torn-up land, and wonders if there's someone here. Mizet leisurely inspects his gun and greets Lynx. He shows him the finished product, which is another one of his ultra gun modifications. To top it off, Mizet demonstrates the weapon's might by helping Lynx release a giant nuke, leaving a crater in the ground. Lynx is horrified, but Mizet thinks that his weapon needs more tinkering. Lynx realizes that a weapon of this caliber would reign in death and destruction if reproduced and supplied to the world. He comes back to the castle, wondering about the apocalyptic strength of this party. Lynx comes across Blowstone, who's sitting in his room with thousands of books all around them. Lynx thinks that he can't even have a proper discussion with someone like him, and requests a lesson from the wise orc. Blowstone stands up to praise Lynx's eyes and states that they should train until dinner. Lynette is busy collecting mushrooms when she hears the cries of a man as Lynx falls from the sky. She catches him while he's out of breath and becomes shocked to see a giant boar, which Lynette hunted for their dinner. Blowstone was trying to train him with ankle weights, except Lynx wasn't expecting a training of such harsh nature, as he failed the regimen before being saved by Lynette. Lynette tells him to return to the castle as they are about to have dinner. She also carries the giant boar with just one hand, displaying her massive strength. Blowstone, Alicet, and Mizet are surprised that Lynx came back in one piece. Lynx is just deathly afraid of these three, and wonders how many times Rick must have nearly lost his life training against such powerful people. That's why he's so overpowered now. The crew sits to eat dinner as they enjoy a delicious meal, courtesy of Lynette's masterful cooking. Blowstone asks Lynx if he knows about the magical stones known as the 6 jewels. Lynx shares that those jewels are from the legends of Yamato, as when the jewels are gathered, the dungeon in which the legendary Kaiser Erisipiedo sleeps can open the origin spiral. Infinity stones, anyone. Blowstone confirms that their party is currently in search of the location of the stones and wonders if Lynx has any information on them. Lynx shares that they have wyverns appearing in great numbers near a mountain as of late, and someone also confirmed a red light. Blowstone declares that their next destination is that mountain. Inside the Northern Guild, a girl thinks that even though she's become an adventurer, all she's doing is sweeping the guild as an F-rank amateur. She suddenly overhears a conversation with Blowstone and her superior, who claims that despite the guild's strength, they still have to meet a minimum requirement of 4 people. Rick confirms the fact as he's worked his job as a receptionist. Blowstone requests for the guild master to find them a helper to fill up the final spot. Ray Lucas is called up for the job, as the guild master reminds her that this is a great opportunity for her to enter high-danger rated quests. Blowstone extends his hand to the helper, while Ray thinks that she might just be devoured by this giant before reaching home. Entering the area of a high-danger rating, Ray questions Rick's rank, as he explains that he just became an E-ranker recently. Ray doesn't want to be rude to him and internalizes how that's disastrous for his age, and secretly hopes not to turn out like him. Alicet spots a wyvern tearing apart the flesh of a bear, while Ray is shocked to witness the winged beast. Blowstone knocks away the wyvern with relative ease, and tells Ray to cut out her whining. Ray thinks that they're in deep trouble now, as the wyvern will request help. Blowstone finds her a noisy person, and requests Rick to take her elsewhere. Rick takes her around the area, as Ray finds a lump of wyverns gathering to defeat the guild. She thinks that they should go and save them, because she doesn't want to let her party die. Rick states that she's a good person and will become a good adventurer someday. That's exactly when the corpse of a wyvern comes crashing on the ground, as she spots the gigantic cyclone engulfing the winged beasts. Rick manages to save Ray from the onslaught of a red wyvern, a beast that's nearly the size of an actual dragon. Ray thinks that Rick is on a mission to unalive himself by coming face to face with such a monster. Rick shows no signs of backing out, so she shouts her desire to fight alongside him. Ray states that she doesn't want to abandon her ally, as her hero, Yamato, would never do the same. Rick is happy that someone else shares the same admiration for Yamato, and tasks Ray to cover his back. He then goes on to eradicate the red wyvern in a single strike, making Ray realize that he's not an E-rank adventurer in the slightest. The 3S rank forces also return, as they've defeated the dozens of dragons without receiving any injuries. They also succeeded in their objective to obtain one of the 6 jewels. The next day, Ray is lost in her thoughts, as she's just witnessed the height of an adventurer's powers. Ray hopes to become an E ranker within half a year after witnessing such feats. Back at the castle, Rick and the others stand in the wake of one jewel called the Crimson Petal. It actually draws monsters near it with its energy, while Blowstone suggests that they should track the other stones using this one's energy. Visit begins to inspect the stone, chanting his 6th order magic, and maps their location in a fairly large city. They guess that it may be the royal capital, and note that the location has to be the Colosseum itself. Blowstone confirms that the next stone is there waiting for them. About 400 years ago, Heracutopia was a small nation in the desert. The 4th king, Alexander, built the Colosseum, and competitions were held where he fought without the need for weapons. Alexander reigned as the undefeated champion in over 10,000 matches, and people wanted to beat him from all over the continent. Alexander was famously known as the Fist King himself. Oof, such a legend for handing 10,000 Ls throughout his career. Rick recalls how this is how the story follows as they stand before his statue. Blowstone wants to trade blows with such a powerful man. They came asking for information regarding the 6 jewels, except they had no leads on who to ask. Rick spots a delinquent who's bothering a lady. Blowstone chimes in to instill fear in the delinquent, who claims to be a gladiator. Blowstone takes care of him instantly while the cat girl is introduced to be Militia, and the delinquent is Gourds. Rick shows them the special jewel while they ask if they've seen a yellow stone identical to the object. Rick reflects that these guys probably wouldn't know, except Gourds and Militia both claim to have seen something similar. Before they could advance in their discussion, a huge announcement regarding the greatest tournament is declared, which is supposed to happen in a month's time. Lynette asks about the tournament, and Gourds explains that it's a large-scale tournament with an attendance of 500,000 people coming every year. Gourds points to the man who has been the reigning tournament champion for the last 3 years. Kelvin Ervolf rejoices in the parade, while Blowstone and Lynette both agree that he's someone of powerful strength. Both Gourds and Militia are suddenly shocked as they point to the champion's belt, which gleams with the yellow magic stone that they've all been looking for. We're shown how Kelvin is hoping for this tournament to turn out something more than a disappointment. Rick and Lynette meet him at once, and he recognizes the strength of the woman before him, which is totally opposite to her appearance. He thinks that Rick is even worse, as his body has been trained to an extraordinary amount. Rick apologizes for their sudden interruption, and states that they've been searching for a certain jewel. Blowstone thinks that Rick is being too slow in his advances, and takes over the discussion. The champion understands that this orc is absolutely the real deal. Blowstone asks him to hand over the champion's belt, as it bears a jewel that they've been searching for many years. Kelvin spouts that he knows they're not lying, as he believes their words. Kelvin doesn't want to hand over the belt, as it's the pride of the people of Heracutopia and their legacy. Instead, he challenges them to enter the Fist King's tournament and obtain the item fairly. Blowstone tells them that they should leave, which comes as a surprise to Rick and Lynette. Blowstone advises them to pay attention to what he says. Kelvin is looking forward to the tournament, believing that things might have gotten more entertaining now. At the tournament testing grounds, Rick tells Lynette that it won't be simple to obtain the jewel. Not only that, but he's worried that Blowstone went to the East League alone, and prayed that his opponents wouldn't end up dying. Rick steps into the testing arena himself to meet his examiner, who explains that they'll be having a mock battle. Rick asks if his opponent is strong, which he confirms is the case. Rick's opponent arrives in wondrous passion and is hilariously revealed to be Angelica Durumuto, who is shocked to meet him at such a place. The examiner is surprised and wonders if they know each other. Damn, Angelica really does have rotten luck running into him again. Angelica asks Rick why he's even here, who is curious about the same thing. The examiner states that the test needs to begin immediately. He initiates their battle, while Angelica is plagued with unnecessary thoughts of defeat like last time. She knows that this is the man who defeated her brother. Observing them from the stands, Nicholas thinks that the girl is about to wipe the floor against her opponent. The moment their battle begins, Angelica finds herself dusted, as she makes a mistake in her technique. Rick's towering figure stands before her, while he explains that he's developed a new technique, called the first of 8 secret techniques to hold back his powers, otherwise known as a normal leg sweep. Angelica has no idea what he's going on about. People create special moves, and this man creates normal moves, lol. Angelica finds Rick impossible to contest against as she falls to the ground, continuously making a mistake in her technique. Rick praises her blink step ability and states that it's his turn to attack now. Like last time, Angelica forfeits before he could do anything to attack, ruining Rick's expectations. Girl's a true quitter, but nobody would blame her. Rick returns to Lynette, stating that he passed and can compete as a gladiator in the competition. However, Angelica comes raging forth to ask why he's even here. Rick tells her that he just wants to win the Fist King tournament, imploring her to confess that Rick has an enormous amount of strength, except it's literally impossible for him to win in such an event. Lynette wonders what she means by that. Angelica explains the league order is the requirement to participate in the main event, which requires one to finish up in the top 7 of the first league. For Rick, he'd be starting out from the 5th league, as he's only just become a gladiator. Lynette also tells them that the condition for each league promotion is to win 7 or more of the previous matches, and even if one were to win all matches, they're going to be a part of 10 battles straight. With 10 matches for each league, a gladiator like him needs to win 40 straight victories in a month, which is a ridiculous accomplishment. Rick thinks that 40 matches is a lot of time and wonders if the struggle will be difficult, which makes Lynette wonder if they should reevaluate their plans. Yikes, he needs to drop a 40 bomb all in 1 month. We jump forth to the preliminary matches of the Fist King tournament, where Nicholas spots Rick as the same guy from yesterday. His opponent is a man named Grit, who is a cheapskate notorious for his clever abilities. He's not too strong but deploys underhanded tactics against his opponents. Grit thinks about how his opponent is a 30-year-old who just became a gladiator. He finds it wonderful to receive the chance to crush him. The referee announces that the use of weapons and armor is banned and conducts a body test. With both fighters receiving the green light to fight, they begin their match. Grit about to pull up a Glock on our boy Lol. Surprisingly, lowers his stature as he's got a weapon of his own in the heel of his shoe. Rick realizes that what he has is an impact stone, which is one capable of amplifying the impact of an attack by several magnitudes. Clearly, this is cheating, and even more, Grit uses sand to distract Rick and attempts to land a full force strike. He is too busy celebrating his win, without even knowing that he broke his arm from the impact instead. Grit wails in agony while Rick stands unfazed, stating that it's just the obvious result after pairing an impact stone with an untrained body. Bro thought he cooked until he burnt down his own kitchen. Rick tells him that it's better to train the 4 fundamentals more than relying on snide tactics. As Grit adjusts his broken arm, Rick commences his second of 8 techniques of holding back, the one and only swing and miss punch, which is a punch that causes more mental damage than a physical one. More like I will smoke you with trauma punch. Grit is rendered defeated on the ground, leaving Nicholas and Angelica shocked. The referee declares Rick Gladiator is the undisputed winner of this match, while Nicholas believes that he's the definition of something amazing.